New government-funded project which launches today and uses images from Bollywood to encourage more South Asian men to get themselves tested. Shabnam Mahmood has been finding out more.
I've been with my partner now for 13 years. We met when I was a student in London, studying at the London College of Fashion, and we've been together for that many years, and we've got a lovely dog together, and we've made our life here. I walked into the clinic and it was an empty clinic on a Wednesday evening, really late, and I was like, great, no one's going to see me here, no one's going to know me. It was in a different borough in London, and I can have my test and I can quickly slip out and it'll be fine, everything will be okay.
Living with HIV. 5 years ago, Sham, as he's known for short, was in his 20s when he discovered he'd contracted the virus.
It was mixed emotions. I was quite relieved to actually know my status at the time, but also quite anxious and worried because I didn't really understand what it all fully meant. And I kind of rejected any support at the time and just decided to bury my head in the sands. So I only recently told my parents, and I'm very lucky. All of them have been very supportive, down to the fact that my father did say to me that it doesn't change anything, and that if I wanted to do anything publicly or talk about it, he would be there to support me. And I think that is probably one of the best reactions you can ever get from a parent. And as an Asian parent, that is the biggest blessing I could ever get.
But in many South Asian communities across Britain, coming out is a taboo, let alone admitting to having HIV, which has its own stigma.
As an Asian, in our culture, in our community, we don't talk about sex. It's associated with a lot of shameful act, even sinful. I remember even thinking, what if this is a sin? Maybe I've been really sinful. Maybe God is punishing me for something. Shame is something you don't bring in Asian families. You don't bring to that doorstep or to the community, and you want to kind of hide that as much as possible. So I think that's the biggest barrier, is that shame and guilt.
It's these barriers that are stopping many South Asian gay men from getting HIV tested. Overall, the number of new diagnoses of HIV has fallen by around a third in the white community. But that rate of decline is not as high in South Asian groups. In fact, some health experts warn the problem could be much worse.
I think that the actual numbers and figures are likely to be much higher than those that are recorded, and there are a number of reasons for this. The most significant reason is that we know that South Asian gay and bisexual men are less likely to engage with sexual health services than other ethnic minority groups, and indeed than the white British majority. This means that if you're not engaging with sexual health services, we're unable to ascertain a person's HIV status, we're unable to know whether or not they're living with other STIs. So that's one key issue. And the other issue is, again, it relates to awareness. If people don't know that they're engaging with risky practices, that they're engaging in risky practices, they're less likely to seek support, they're less likely to be diagnosed. What I've consistently found is that South Asians possess the least HIV knowledge of all BME groups. And of course, awareness is key, because if you don't know about HIV, you don't know that your behaviours are putting you at risk, and you're unable to access prevention because you won't be thinking about your risk and ways of preventing it.
There are many support groups already tackling this issue. One of the longest-running charities providing sexual health services for ethnic minorities is the NAS Project here in West London. Nice to meet you. It provides culturally specific help for hundreds of people.
So a lot of South Asian communities don't feel like they can mix their identities if they are LGBT and from a South Asian background. That's a kind of persistent problem that happens with people. They feel very isolated and alone. Culturally, there's a big taboo around sexual health and speaking out and accessing support and getting help when they need it. There's generally just a lot of kind of social issues that aren't addressed. They don't see very many role models like themselves in any campaigns or in any kind of culture really that really enable them to kind of come forward and access that support.
What kind of support do people need?
A lot of them just often need someone to kind of validate their identity and let them know that it's okay to be who they are. A lot of them need very basic sexual health awareness or HIV awareness, where they don't know how it's transmitted, they don't know what risks they're at, they don't know about how risky their sex is and things like that. All of this kind of forms a cocktail. A lot of the time this affects their mental health as well, sometimes around drugs and alcohol. So there's quite a few things going on usually at one time with people, so it's really why our service needs to be very culturally specific.
Health authorities have told us that those from India, Bangladesh and Pakistan who might be HIV positive avoid testing and even medical care. That's because homosexuality is seen as a taboo in their culture.
Hi, welcome.
Hi, nice to meet you. Meet Makinder Chahal. He works for Trade Sexual Health in Leicester.
It's quite a nice big social space.
He sets up a regular clinic for testing at this leisure centre in the city.
Shower's just there, and then we've got a dry sauna, steam room and a nice jacuzzi.
Many of the men who come here are not openly gay. Many are married.
I think it's important to be able to deliver testing within the communities as opposed to getting people to come and test where we're located. Because there's lots of barriers for people accessing testing services, we wanted to eradicate some of those barriers by actually taking the testing to where people are going to be. 3, 2, 1. Squeeze the blood onto the test strip, and then we'll add a drop of the solution onto the test strip, which helps the blood travel up the strip. Okay, so we'll just wait 20 minutes and then I'll get your result then.
Great.
Okay.
Thank you.
Thankfully, he tested negative.
Some people do feel really open about talking to me as a gay Asian man, even if they are in heterosexual marriages or may not even identify as gay or bisexual themselves. They still feel comfortable seeing somebody in a space where there's mutual respect.
Educating the South Asian community is critical. It's why the government has backed the Sholay Love project by the NAS charity. The poster campaign is inspired by a classic Bollywood film of the same name. This song from the movie is all about friendship and is already popular among some in the South Asian gay community.
To a lot of South Asian people, Sholay conjures up some very specific images. The word itself means flames. It's when we were creating the campaign, it was something that a lot of people felt was something that they could identify with in terms of like the Bollywood imagery. Obviously, we're not using the Bollywood film, but it's that familiarity that we kind of wanted to capture. So we're going to put some out in community organisations, partnership organisation groups, things like GPs. Some of our images are going to go in places like clubs and bars and saunas, in outreach settings as much as we can, obviously as well as online. Just anywhere we can get them really, where we think that they might have an impact and they might reach people. The posters are the kind of images that we're hoping people will share and see and kind of start the conversation around, but we're aware that it's the start. There's going to be a lot more work around this, and the time is really right now to actually say for South Asian gay and bisexual men especially, we're here, we're going to take control of our sexual health.
Health professionals say they cannot do enough to encourage people to get tested, and they stress that early intervention is key. There have been enormous strides in treating HIV. Medication such as PrEP, which is taken once a day, stops HIV from taking hold and spreading throughout the body.
So I'm quite comfortable with my status. I know I'm on treatment, I'm on effective treatment. I can't pass on the virus to anyone. I can't pass it on to my partner who's HIV negative. And I want to kind of get that education out there that HIV is not a deadly disease. And if you're on effective treatment, you will live a long, healthy life. You have to make obviously some of their lifestyle changes, but generally you can live a normal, healthy life, and that's the message I want to get out.
Shabnam Mahmood reporting from the BBC Asian Network. More on